So dear friends, we are in income tax subject of BCom second year, 4th semester. Till now, we have discussed direct taxes and indirect taxes. But before that, we have discussed the meaning, definition, the characteristic features of tax. And direct taxes, the definition, the pros and cons of direct taxes, we have discussed the definition, the concept of indirect tax, pros and cons of indirect tax we have discussed, and the differences between direct and indirect taxes also we have discussed. And in the previous class, we have learned about the basic thing about basic understanding of canon of taxation we have learned. Canon means basic principle. Okay. So in the previous class, I mentioned about a famous economist. Who is that economist? Who is that economist? Very good.
Adams.
In which year he wrote that book, Wealth of Nations?
1776.
Very good. In 1776, he has written a famous book, the world famous book that is known as Wealth of Nations in short. Okay. So in that book, he mentioned about canons of taxation. Canons of taxation implies canon means principle. Okay. So basic fundamental principles of taxation. A government should keep in mind these basic principles, fundamental qualities before imposing a tax. That is what you mean by saying canon. Okay. So we will discuss all those canons in detail now. First of all, canon of equity. See, what it implies is the burden of taxation should be or must be distributed equally or equitably among the taxpayers. See what it implies. You have to understand the correct meaning of this word equity. Means equally means proportionately. See, if a rich person pays 10,000 as a tax, a poor person, in case of direct tax, he need not pay anything if he is a poor person means. That is what you mean by saying equity. But it does not imply that a rich person will pay 10,000 and poor person will also pay the same 10,000. Then there is no equity. You have to understand it correctly. Means the burden of taxation must be distributed equally. Means the rich should pay more as a tax and the poor need not pay at all anything as tax. That is what you mean by saying equity. Okay, certainty. Second principle, second most important principle is certainty. Means it implies the taxpayer should be certain as to how much he has to pay the amount to the government, to the tax authorities. Then in that case, he can plan how to save money to pay tax, at what time, where he has to pay. Everything should be clear. There should not be any ambiguity. There should not be any uncertainty. Everything should be clear. In which month, what is the deadline of to pay tax, how much he has to pay to the government, where he has to pay, what is the method of payment. Everything should be certain. Not only a taxpayer, but government also should be very clear, very certain as how much is going to be collected by a way of tax. That is what you mean by saying canon of tax certainty. Canon of certainty. The amount should be certain. The method should be certain. When, where, why, what, how, everything should be clear. There should not be any ambiguity. There should not be any arbitrariness. Okay, that is what you mean by saying canon of certainty. Coming to next canon means next principle, that is convenience. Canon of convenience. See, whenever tax is to be paid by the taxpayer, at a convenient time, he should be asked to pay the tax. Convenient means a time which the taxpayer feels comfortable in paying. Means let us take, for example, let us take the case of farmers, agriculturists. See, when food production takes place, when paddy comes to their house, when it is sold, then they will be able to pay certain tax. This is just an example I am saying. Okay. On agricultural income, there is no tax in India, but that is different story. The story of it we will come to know in our next classes. But for our simple understanding, I am mentioning an agriculturist, a farmer will be very happy to pay tax when his paddy is sold in the market, because at that point of time money will be available with him, he can pay the tax. But at the time of sowing seeds, at the time of cutting the agricultural produce, if he is asked to pay tax, means it will be inconvenient for him. Okay, so at a very convenient point of time, a taxpayer should be asked to pay tax to the government. That is what we mean by saying canon of convenience. Okay, then canon of economy. This is also very, very important principle. Economy means, I mentioned in the previous classes also, less cost should be there. Means I will tell you with an example. Suppose, see, in the previous classes I mentioned I paid 10,000 as income tax to the government last year. Okay, but now you see, for collecting 10,000 from me, government has spent 12,000 rupees. Is it good? I paid 10,000 rupees as a tax, whereas to collect 10,000 from me, government has paid, government incurred an expenditure of 12,000. Is it profitable to the government? Is it profitable to the tax authorities? No, not at all. Like this, a government, while planning to impose, while planning to levy tax, while planning to collect a tax, it should see to it that economy prevails. Means cost of collecting a tax should be as minimum as possible. So the amount should be, my tax payment is 10,000. The collection charges should be less than 10,000. Only then some amount will be remaining with the government from my payment. Otherwise, collecting from me the tax amount of 10,000 is a waste for the government, because they have incurred, in this example, they have incurred 2,000 more for collecting tax from me. That is a waste. So I am not happy, the government is also not happy. So like that, canon of economy implies collecting cost of a tax should be as minimum as possible. So these are the 4 major canons of taxation mentioned by Adam Smith ji. Okay, 2 C's are there, 2 E's are there. They are very easy to remember. You see, 2 C's. What are the 2 C's? Certainty, convenience. 2 C's. These words are starting with C. Certainty, convenience. 2 E's are there. These words are starting with E. Equity, economy. These are the fundamental. These are the main canons of taxation. Okay, as propounded by, as mentioned by Adam Smith. Okay, so subsequently, modern economists have also mentioned certain other principles of canons of taxation, other principles of taxation. Canon of productivity. Okay, what it implies is, see, the tax revenue should be sizable one, should be something which a government feels happy. A tax authority, the authorities of tax should be very, very happy to collect, and should be easily, happily ready to impose or levy or collect. Let us take, for example, if tax imposed on me is, let us take, for example, 0.25 paisa. Let us take, for example. Is it productive? My question is, last year I have to pay tax amount of 0.25 paisa. Is it productive? No, not at all, because the amount of tax is not a sizable one, not a major one. So while imposing, while levying a tax, the government should see to it that productivity is there. Something, a very good calculable amount, a handy amount reaches the tax authorities. That is the intention of levying, imposing, and collecting tax from the citizens. Canon of elasticity means taxes should be flexible or elastic. Means in case of need of any reduction in tax rates, the government should be feeling it very easy to cut down the tax rates. If the government feels that more revenue is required from taxes, the government should be in a position to increase the tax very easily. That is what you mean by saying for increasing, decreasing, easiness is known as elasticity. So if the government wants to increase the tax, it should be easy. If the government wants to reduce tax, it should be easy for the government to reduce the tax. That is what you mean by saying canon of elasticity. Okay. Then next one is canon of simplicity. Means the collection procedure, the tax imposition procedure, the levying procedure, everything should be simple. Even the taxpayer himself, without the help of any other authorities or tax consultants, he himself or he or she himself or herself should be able to calculate a tax, should be easily ready to pay tax, ready to remit the amount in government's account or in tax authorities' accounts without the help of any other persons. That is what you mean by saying simplicity. Okay. Persons, the taxpayer should know, should be able to easily understand what, why, when, where, how, all these questions without the help of others. If a taxpayer is able to understand himself or herself, that is known as simplicity. So tax structure should be very simple to understand. Even a common man should be able to understand very easily. Canon of diversity. See, canon of diversity. The canon of diversity implies, see, not only from one source, but various other sources also government should collect taxes. Means not only income tax, GST should be there, customs duty should be there. Okay. The toll tax, like various cesses are there, various taxes are there. So diversity should be there. More than one source of revenue government should keep in mind, should develop. So income tax is here, GST is here, customs duty is there, customs cess, toll cess, various other charges are also there. So all those things, all those kinds of taxes should be readily at the disposal of the government. That is what you mean by saying canon of diversity. Canon of uniformity means there should not be any biasness. Uniform means, see, in schools you must have come across this word uniform. What do you mean by uniform? When you are school going children, you are wearing uniforms. What do you mean by uniform?
Is a college code or school code?
What do you mean by uniform? Uniform means similarness, sameness. Okay. All students wear the same shirts or same pants or same dresses. That is what we mean by saying uniforms. So similarly here also, in a government's, in a country's tax structure also, there should be uniformity in imposition of tax, in a levy of tax, in collection of tax. For rich persons, one type of collection, one type of benefits. For poor persons without any benefits, like that, government should not do like that. Okay, that is what you mean by saying canon of uniformity. Okay, all should be treated equally. All are equal before law. That is what you mean by saying canon of uniformity. Okay, canon of coordination. See, there should be proper coordination between various tax authorities. So I mentioned various taxes just now: income tax, GST, customs duty, excise duty, or what you call toll cess. Various tax authorities are there. There must be proper coordination and cooperation between various tax authorities. Canon of variety. Okay. See, this is almost just like a canon of diversity. This is from the country's point of view. This is from the individual's point of view. For your easy understanding, I am saying, see, a single tax is easily avoidable. It means a person, in our discussion between direct taxes and indirect taxes differences or the disadvantages of direct taxes also I mentioned. So direct tax is easily avoidable, easily avoidable rather. Means a person without paying tax, he can escape. So that is why different taxes should be there on people as well as on various commodities, various goods and services. Then it will be very, very difficult for a person to escape, for a person to evade tax. Okay. So these are the various canons of taxation. Canon means principle, basic principle. Okay. I hope you understood. Is it clear? These canons are they clear to you? See, first four I mentioned, these four are mentioned by Adam Smith. These are four given by Adam Smith, famous economist, in his book in 1776. He has written Wealth of Nations. In that book, yes, Mirza Moin Beg. Is there any doubt? You have raised your hand, it seems. Is there any doubt? Mirza Moin Beg, you raised your hand or simply you raised? Is there any doubt? Okay. See, these are the fundamental canons, primary canons as mentioned by Adam Smith. These are the subsequent canons. Canon means a characteristic, a quality. Okay. To easily remember, I told you 2 C's are there, 2 E's are there. Equity, certainty, convenience, economy. These are elasticity, productivity, variety, simplicity, diversity, uniformity, coordination. Okay. Now, our next topic is going to be history of income tax in India. Now, before I start this topic, let me ask you a question. It is open question. It is question pertaining to your social studies. Up to 10th class, we have studied social studies, history. Okay. In India's freedom struggle, what is the importance of 1857? In 1857, major incident happened in our country. What is it? What happened? Yes, is there any doubt or you are answering? In 1857, what happened in Indian freedom struggle?
ఆర్థిక మాన్యం ఏర్పడింది సార్ అది.
In 1857, economy collapsed. Depression is there? No, that is not correct. In 1857, Sipahi mutiny, first war of Indian independence. Jhansi Lakshmibai, Tantia Tope, all you have heard, no? Sipahi mutiny, first war of Indian independence, was fought in year 1857. In Telugu, you will call it as Sipahila Tirugubatu.
Yes.
You have forgotten the history and you are learning commerce. How if you forget our great country's history? So our country's income tax history dates back to 1860 actually. In 1860, what happened means, first time in our country, till then there was no system of income tax. But with the incident of Sipahi mutiny or military mutiny in 1857, British government found it very, very difficult to manage our country's affairs. So they started collecting income tax from the citizens of India in 1860. And first time you have to remember, first union budget was proposed in our country by Sir James Wilson. He was the first person, British person, who has introduced the union budget in our country in 1860. The date is also given on 7th April 1860. You have to remember it. Again, I will ask in the subsequent classes. You should remember it. Sir James Wilson is the first person to introduce income tax in India in 1860. On 7th April 1860, he introduced income tax in our country to cope up with the losses that the government suffered because of the struggle with Indian freedom fighters in 1857. In this gap of 3 years period, British government found it very, very difficult to manage the affairs, financial affairs. In order to control our freedom fighters, they required huge amounts, huge funds were required. So they started collecting income tax from the citizens of our country. So that was the beginning of the history of income tax in India. Okay. Subsequently, this Income Tax Act was changed in 1886 with 4 schedules. First schedule contained salaries, pensions, gratuities, net profits of companies, interests on the securities of the government of India, and other sources of income. These are the 4 schedules that were mentioned in 1886. So in 1860, Income Tax Act was introduced by Sir James Wilson. In 1886, this law was changed. Income Tax Act was changed. Okay. Subsequently, in 1918, this 1886 law was repealed, means was changed. Okay. With major changes have occurred in 1918. Subsequently, in 1922, another act, Income Tax Act, was passed. Okay. After the attainment of independence in 1961, so now we are presently following based on the act enunciated in 1961. This came into force in 1962. From 1st April 1962 onwards, the present Income Tax Act is in force. As you all know, every year Income Tax Act will be changed. In the previous classes also I mentioned, every year Honorable Finance Minister will propose a budget in the Parliament, and all the citizens have to follow the budget proposals scrupulously without any deviation. Okay, at present, there are 5 heads of income according to income tax. Okay, income from salary, income from house property, income from profits and gains of business or profession, income from capital gains, income from other sources. So we are following Income Tax Act 1961. So if I ask you in subsequent classes, in which year Income Tax Act was passed, you have to mention it as in 1961. So these are 1922 and 1860, 1886, 1918. These, just for history's sake, I mentioned it. I explained to you. But when was the Income Tax Act law was passed means we have to mention 1961. We are currently following this act. Okay. So in the present Income Tax Act, we have 298 sections. Okay, you can see 23 chapters are there. You can clearly see 23 chapters are there and 298 sections are, okay, and 14 schedules are there in the present Income Tax Act. So you have to remember the year. One question I am asking you, how much alert you are? I want to ask you one question. In which year first time Income Tax Act was passed in our country before independence? In which year Income Tax Act was first passed in India? Means nobody is listening. In which year Income Tax Act was passed for the first time in our country?
Sir,
1860.
Very good, very good. 1860 for the first time I mentioned. Okay, in 1860. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Now next, who is the person? Who was the person who introduced income tax before independence country in 1860?
James Wilson, sir. Person name.
James Wilson. Okay, very good.
James
very good. Very good. Very good. So you are following. Okay. So these things you have to remember, not only for the income tax subject, In your competitive examinations also, they will ask. Okay, after your degree, you may have to write various competitive examinations. In which year Income Tax Act passed for the first time in our country, means you have to mention 1860. Who was the person who introduced the Income Tax Act in our country? You have to mention James Wilson. Okay, presently we are following 1961, and you have to 1961 Income Tax Act we are following. At the same time, you have to remember that this Act of 1961 is applicable to the entire country, okay, including Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, that you have to remember very clearly. Okay, is it clear now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Features of income tax in India. Quickly, I will go through this one. Features, these you can easily understand them. Features of income tax in India. Now you see, it is levied as per the constitution. You all know we have separate constitution. Every country has a constitution. Ours is the biggest, largest constitution in the world. That you all very well know, with so many articles. Okay, so Income Tax Act is levied as per the constitution. It is levied by the central government, not state government. Please remember, I mentioned in our country, taxes will be mentioned by central government, state government, as well as local governments like Gram Panchayat, Nagar Panchayat, municipalities, corporations. But income tax is levied by central government of our country. So it is a direct tax. It is annual tax. Means normally citizens are expected to pay annually their tax. Okay, so tax means on their annual income they are supposed to pay, rather. Okay, not on monthly income, on their annual income. Per year they will calculate at the per year tax will be levied, imposed and collected. It is a tax on person, not on animals or not on any goods or services. Okay, it is a tax on income, as the name itself implies. You can see it is income tax. The name itself implies tax on income, not on tax on wealth or not on tax on gift or any other. Okay, we will come to know about this in our subsequent class. That is, income of previous year is assessable in assessment year. What is the previous year? What is assessment year? In our subsequent class, in our next class only, I will make it clear. But for the time being, you learn this. Income of previous year is assessable in assessment. So income tax is charged at prescribed rates. Every year, I mentioned in previous classes also, in earlier classes also, every year rates will change. Income tax slab rates will change. So income tax will be charged at prescribed rates. Okay, it is administered by the central government. So it is levied, imposed by the central government. Similarly, the persons who will be responsible to collect the tax, who will be responsible to impose fines, all those are from the central government. It is applicable throughout India. That you have to remember, including Jammu and Kashmir. These are the features of income tax. Did you understand, my dear students? Did you understand the features?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you can see I am coming back to the syllabus. See what we have learned up to now. Introductory part, direct and indirect taxes we have learned. Canons of taxation we have learned. Features, the 10 features we have discussed just now. History of income tax in India we have discussed. So all these are discussed in first unit, that is introductory unit up to now. Are there any doubts in these 4 topics? That is direct and indirect taxes, canons of taxation, features of income tax, and history of income tax in India. These are the 4 topics discussed. Are there any doubts in them? You can raise the doubts now. We are having less than 1 minute now. Is there any doubt or everything is clear?
No doubt, sir.
No doubt. Very good. So as mentioned by me, you pause the video, you note down the notes of today also. Okay, canons of taxation, features, history of income tax in India. You pause the video and note down the notes. You complete the notes on a day-to-day basis. You put separate notes. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, dear students. I am running out of time.